Women and men often have different energy needs. They face different barriers and challenges, and of course, contribute differently to the energy sector's development. In this sense, it's critical to recognize the need of gender-responsive approaches. During this session, we will have the opportunity of hearing from esteemed experts and practitioners who every day contribute to making gender equity and equality a reality. Through their insights, with a presentation and with questions, we will deep our understanding on the challenges and opportunities in implementing gender-responsive energy policies and programs. I would like to first, without no more delay, present our first speaker, Orestes Anastasia, Director for International Clean Energy and Climate Change at ICF, to share his expertise on gender-responsive approach to drive impactful climate action in Asia. Please.
Thank you very much, Celia, and it's a pleasure to be here. I am actually not supposed to have been here because I'm replacing my colleague, Valentina Girotto, who prepared this presentation and unfortunately was not able to join us in person. But I'm delighted to have an opportunity to share some of her great work and the rest of the work our ICF team is supporting. Maybe we can go to the next slide, or I could do that actually. Oh, it worked. Wonderful. So just to explain very quickly about ICF. ICF is an international consultancy. We're a global consultancy providing advisory and technology services in a wide range of sectors, very strongly in energy and climate change. And as it happens, we have been developing a very strong gender equality and social inclusion practice. We recently launched an urban gender and inclusion lab, started in 2021, which focuses on a combination of urban development and GESI-centered challenges. And this has been growing in a very complementary way in terms of our work around the world and in many developing countries. So let's see if this advances. Okay. The perspective I think that is central to this presentation is that when addressing broader challenges like climate change, it can't be done in a vacuum. There are a lot of technological solutions or technical approaches to addressing climate change, but it's very highly ingrained with what's needed in society. And so we have to think about climate change in a robust, what we try to do is think about climate change in a robust and holistic way. Think about how climate change disproportionately affects society's most vulnerable populations and communities. That when we talk about the just transition, we can't, and you know, very important transition to low carbon, clean energy and other transitions, that we can't just assume that a transition is just by addressing that. Certain actions have to be taken to ensure that that transition is just and done in a way that's very deliberate and thoughtful. And in approaching it this way, we want to make sure that we address this through a holistic approach that considers specifically, and very relevant to this topic, gender equality and social inclusion as part of climate action. And there are certain things that certain actions to take and certain methods to think about GESI in a very, very specific way to complement the efforts to promote a just transition. Okay, great. So let's just get me across. So there are, I think there's a lot of recognition in the importance of GESI. And if you don't mind, I'll just say GESI as a shorthand, but it shouldn't be assumed that just because you talk about GESI, even because it's included in a project scope or as part of a policy, that it's going to be followed through and it's fully understood. So one of the approaches that we have taken in our work is to challenge assumptions that just because a project is gender blind and neutral in terms of how it's structured, that it's actually implemented that way. And so we adopt do no harm principles, which are really aimed at getting to the bottom of what the needs are in a community or a particular part of a population. So thinking about it, I would say in sort of a bottom-up approach, not just assuming from the top down that what we're implementing is neutral and fair and equitable, but really making sure that it's inclusive and responds to the needs of the community. And to do that, you have to listen, you have to engage. And so the monitoring, developing and monitoring GESI action plans, conducting the assessments, developing the action plans is quite important for putting this into effect and making sure that it's actually practical and effective. And so the process for this these efforts of challenging social norms and institutionalizing GESI processes towards actually being effective, conducting an assessment, engaging stakeholders directly, working with those local stakeholders to identify key areas of need and areas that need attention, and then designing projects to the extent possible to building on that knowledge, building on that engagement. So let me just go to the next slide. There's just a few examples that I'd like to share of areas where we have applied this. There are 3 projects that are from the UK Pact, that's Partnership for Accelerating Climate Transitions. There's a piece of that initiative that ICF manages and implements called the Green Recovery Challenge Fund. And we've worked in several countries with different partners to address climate transition opportunities and then infuse GESI considerations. And so here's an example where in India, we were helping to promote electric vehicle charging. And the process, the GESI considerations that went into this process recognized that there were problems in the assumptions that the original project design had considered. And so while the project was very technically sound, additional consultations, additional engagement with women and women groups helped understand that that the locations of these EV stations were an issue. The availability of these stations were an issue because they weren't available. Often there was an interest in using them at night, which is kind of a problem for certain parts of society, especially women. Lighting was an issue. The engagement raised a lot of concerns that hadn't been identified initially in the project design. It ended up being quite valuable to add this additional perspective. I'll just jump to another example. This is an example in Ethiopia of distribution network visibility tool. So again, it's a very technical project that benefited from looking at GESI opportunities. So this DNV tool it's a tool that was developed with the Ethiopia electricity electric utility, and it helped identify specific opportunities to mainstream GESI in the mission statement and to develop an action plan. And by infusing this, adding some mainstreaming considerations, it created more opportunities for EEU to engage women in the organization and provide training for women entrepreneurs. Let me just go to the next slide. I realize that we're very short on time already. This is another example from India that involved development of intercity electric bus transport. And this was another example where social norms were assumed, but additional engagement of stakeholders helped identify a few more issues to promote engagement of women. And here is a very simple example. A lot of women felt uncomfortable or would prefer to have a woman driver of an electric vehicle or electric bus, but there simply weren't any women drivers. And so this was something that the transport system didn't really understand until they went through this whole process. And I'm just about out of time, but there's one final project that I will mention in Nepal, the Nepal Urban Resilience Program, where a GESI policy was drafted for a couple of cities, and then a strategy was developed for another city. And these Green City Action Plans benefited again from additional consultation and understanding by engaging local governments to think about how GESI responsive planning and budgeting added additional consideration of women's needs, opportunities for engaging women in decision-making and planning, and actually helped advance the opportunities that existed for promoting resilience. Just a very simple final sort of looking at these examples, a final thought, I guess, to part with is that what it really adds, this the GESI lens to these climate-focused programs, is it's kind of like the third leg of the stool. When we talked about sustainability over the years, you have the economic growth focus, environmental focus, and then social focus. And without considering all three issues, this is the third leg, the social focus, and gender equality, social inclusion provides that additional focus that really helps ensure these programs are robust and successful. And hopefully, I'm out of time, but hopefully I'll have a little more time to respond to questions when it's time for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Orestes. Great to have that holistic approach of GESI and the need to not only speak about all the local level, national level mainstreaming policies, but also on the different end uses. And that brings me to the next speaker. Let's focus now from the different end uses, particularly on the power sector. Bayan Abulkairova, Deputy Chief of Party from the USA Power Central Asia, to speak about her experience. Thank you.
Good afternoon, participants, and thank you for this opportunity to share the experience of our USAID Power Central Asia program in implementing gender activities in energy sector. I have only 7 minutes to manage, right? First, I would like to, before I start, I would like to give some background information about our USAID Power Central Asia program. It is implemented in 5 countries and started in 2020. Yeah, the Central Asia 5 countries is Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyz Republic. The main purpose of this program is to support Central Asia countries to meet their national and regional energy priorities. And each country are aiming to ensure the energy security. And we're also trying to establish a platform for regional electricity trade. We have 3 main objectives. Under first objective, we work closely with each country, with each government, Ministry of Energy, system operators, regulators, and to support their national energy initiatives and targets and strategies and reforms. Under the second objective, the clean energy, we have a number of different activities, of course, related to clean energy, mainly renewable energy. We implement the big scale renewables and also initiating the rooftop solar initiatives. The comprehensive approach with starting from legal regulatory framework, analyzing in parallel the technical aspects of integrating renewable energy into power system. And also the third component is the regional power trade, as I mentioned already. And across all these 3 objectives, we have cross-cutting activities, which are mainly like education, local utility support, gender and women in energy initiatives, and enabling investment environment. These are 4 key cross-cutting activities we are considering during implementation of our Power Central Asia activity in Central Asia. Okay. Historically, it was already mentioned that historical gender gaps exist in the male-dominated energy sector. According to different global studies, the women remain significantly underrepresented in the energy sector. As you can see, 22% of the global labor force of in oil and gas and 32% in renewables, according to IRENA studies. Less than 30% of the world's researchers, only 28% in the STEM workforce, less than 30% in managerial positions, and the pay gap in STEP industries is about 18%. This is a global picture in terms of Central Asia. Central Asia also aims to eliminate the gender gaps in different sectors of the economy. For example, according to UN Women and Gender Assessment of the energy sector in Central Asia, which was conducted in 2018 and 19 in different countries of Central Asia. The global gender gap index ranking follows. The Kazakhstan is 65th, Kyrgyz Republic is 86th, and Tajikistan in the 114th place out of 146 countries. Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan did not participate in this ranking. And according to local studies with university studies and local institution studies, the Kazakhstan women's representation in the renewable energy sector is about 25%, and Uzbekistan is about 22%. In Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, women's participation in the energy sector is about 30%. But of course, there is a need to promote women's leadership, and all IFIs, all donors, all banks, and international development institutions, and they're actively supporting these gender initiatives. And as a USAID Power Central Asia, we are in close cooperation with these institutions, and basically most of all our activities we are try to organize jointly, so we do not overlap. We just save our sources and more efficiently use our sources to address the gender aspects. In Central Asia, generally, Kazakhstan has electric power industry the highest proportion of female employees. We did some study. We analyzed the data from the Ministry of Energy, system operator, there's some utilities. But what we noticed, the most of them is low wage occupations in power industry, and women earn 30% less than men, according to information provided by those agencies and companies. And about 15% from to 38% of low skilled and skilled workforce in the electric power sector. Most of women work not on the technical side, but mostly in the low skilled workforce, or 60% office work or administrative workforce. So it is accountant, it's for financial departments and HR and other departments. Next slide. And in this regard, USAID has a long standing commitment to women's economic empowerment and gender equality. It was mentioned, Jesse, so I will not stress a lot of on these initiatives, but using resources from USAID's former Women's Global Development and Prosperity Fund. USAID implements more than 70 activities in more than 60 countries. In working with a number of private and non-governmental organizations, local organizations, as well as the governments and the other stakeholders. And the key pillars is a woman's success in the workforce, to support and promote vocational education, to build the capacity and train the women so they have sufficient skills to get the job. Women's success as entrepreneurs. This here is a promotion of women's entrepreneurship and give more access to capital markets, technical assistance, and networks, and participation overall in the economic development. here we need to start thinking about the legal regulatory framework. So that from the government side, it's at the policy level, it should be established the certain requirements of better involvement of women in the economic development. In terms of our program, USAID Power Central Asia, we implement a number of activities. Starting from renewable energy curriculum we developed for students, and it is a combination of education and gender initiatives. Scholarship providing USAID Power Central Asia, providing scholarship for 16 students from Central Asia to study a strategic management in the energy sector master program, which is opened in Kazakh German University in Almaty. So we selected 16 students from 5 countries, and we're supporting fully providing scholarship for 2-year master program. And this year, actually end of this in June, we will have the first graduation ceremony for these students, and we are receiving a good feedback because they have access of exchange between countries, and also collaborating not only at the student level, they are bringing the connections to their networking in their countries, in the utility stakeholders. We organize an internship program for female students. Since we're working with the government and with system operators, we have connected with these stakeholders, and we analyze first from the side of the stakeholders, and then from the universities, and establish this connection between students and practitioners. And the students had an internship, and some of them received the job after the internship. So this is also a good initiative. We organize regular site visits, and from the photo you can see the one representative for 4 countries. So from the site, the solar plant and wind farms, bring relevant people from Central Asia to exchange experience and learn more deeply on the practical and technical side. Also, recently we initiated the Women and Youth Mentorship Program. It's interesting that it was attracted about 100 applications, and out of that we selected 40 mentees and connected with the good mentors, and we are receiving good feedback on this initiative, and it is still in progress, and some other networking events are still to be organized. From the latest initiatives under the Ministry of Energy of Kyrgyz Republic, at the initiative of the minister itself, we established the Gender Council, provided the help to development with the charter and the concept. And now we are at the stage of the developing the plans, how the gender committee, they included representatives not only from the Ministry of Energy, but also from other key stakeholders. And we are having like a number of initiatives to be implemented. And right now there is a summer camp in Almaty city. Again, we brought representatives from all Central Asia countries on different from different organizations to exchange experience and to learn about more about problems of gender, women in energy, and mainly to learn about how to address those problems. I think, yeah, I ran out of time. I should stop here. And yeah, this is photo from one of our site visits. Thank you.
Very interesting approach, especially for the power sector, but we cannot forget also in those areas where energy access is still limited or being developed. And I would like to welcome our next speaker, Anas Rahman, Policy Advisor to International Institute for Sustainable Development, to talk on this regard. Thank you, Anas.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anas Rahman. I'm from International Institute for Sustainable Development, IISD. IISD is an international think tank based in Canada and works on different aspects of climate change and sustainability. In this presentation, I want to briefly discuss about the importance of inclusive policy making in clean transition, highlighting two specific sectors in the context of India, which are irrigation and clean cooking. Irrigation is key to enhance the productivity in agriculture sector, and agriculture sector contributes to more than 40% employment in the developing countries. This also has an important impact on the energy sector. For example, in India, the energy for irrigation consumes more than 30% of the overall energy demand. It also contributes significantly to the fossil fuel usage in the country. So shifting this to clean energy is itself a challenge, but at the same time, bringing the remaining unirrigated into the irrigation fold becomes equally challenging task. There is an important gender dimension for this. For example, in India, about 63% of the agriculture employment is fulfilled by women. And this is increasing rapidly because of the male urban migration. And this is the situation is similar across different developing countries. So here, solar irrigation, which is basically powering irrigation through solar power, using solar pumps or other different models, becomes an important tool in making sure that the clean transition is more inclusive. The good news is for India, it has seen a massive growth in the solar pumps deployment in the past years, mostly driven by the government subsidy support. But the key question here to ask is, we have this many women proportion in the agriculture. The key question to ask is, are these solar pumps going to women? Are women benefiting from this increase in the uptake? Our research shows that it is not necessarily so. There are multiple barriers that women face in accessing these benefits. In India, the scheme promoted is mostly individual ownership of pumps, and there are minimum land criteria kept for it. But what we see is that because of the socio-cultural milieu in India, women are significantly disadvantaged when it comes to the land rights. To the right, you can see the chart. Almost 48% women work in farms owned by their own household, but at the national level, only 14% women actually own the land. So this is also propagated into the ownership of agriculture solar pumps as well. Other barriers are there. For example, limited access to institutional credit becomes an important barrier because of cost. Cost is a significant issue in solar pumps. Similarly, gender blind policies in IEC as well as government services continue to pose information and network barriers for women to access these schemes. So what can we do about this? Before going into the details of it, I just want to quickly highlight our publication on this. We have worked on preparing a guidebook for solar irrigation for the in the context of India, and it deals with this and much more. I'll leave a link at the end of this presentation. So coming back to the question, we identified four important strategies to make solar irrigation more inclusive. First of all, we need refinement in the scheme design itself to make prioritize women and relaxing certain conditions. We can even use several targeting measures using economic indicators to make sure that a lot of this benefits goes to women. Secondly, business models alternative to individual ownership of pumps have shown significant benefit for inclusivity. For example, group ownership models by women self-help groups or water as a service, etc., has shown more women involvement in ownership of assets. Thirdly, financing is important. In India, there is a wide network of women self-help groups which finances women livelihood activities. This can be leveraged for solar pumps. Also, other measures like credit enhancement measures, credit guarantee funds have shown significant benefits in improving solar pumps among the women. And finally, making the information access as well as government service access more gender responsive is also important in bringing this all together. To summarize, the my message so far is that solar irrigation is an important opportunity. It makes business sense in terms of life cycle cost, and it is going into a sector which has women domination and which is increasing day by day. But the technology in itself is not breaking those barriers. We need well thought out policies at the government level, different business models to make it more inclusive. Before I go into the next sector, I just want to quickly highlight the business model of secondary use of solar pumps, which is something we are working right now. To give a quick background of it, in India, on an average, solar pumps are used for less than 150 days because of the specific cropping patterns and the size of the pumps. And the pump is remaining there for more than 200 days with surplus energy potential. At the same time, there are several unmet energy needs, especially for women. There may be remunerative activities, there may be other activities like lighting, charging. So this can be fulfilled by this surplus energy. So what we have recently launched is a project funded by IDRC, where we want to bring these two together, the solar pumps along with the livelihood generation activity, and we are planning to do pilots in India as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. Quickly moving to the next sector, cooking. So in clean cooking, LPG subsidy support has been the core strategy for many developing countries to shift households away from harmful biomass-based fuels. And countries like India and Indonesia are spending a lot to give price support on LPGs. But what we see is that despite all of this, even now in India, about 47% of rural women still depend upon biomass fuels for their primary energy needs. Our study into the impact of LPG adoption shows significant benefits, gendered benefits, including less time in cooking and gathering fuels, reducing the drudgery, as well as increasing the health benefits due to better quality indoor air. There are additional spillover benefits as well, because the scheme itself needed identity documentation and bank accounts. Several women got access into bank accounts because of this scheme. But however, the exclusive reliance on LPG for addressing this energy transition requirement is also creating risk. When COVID hit India in 2020, LPG subsidies was the first one to get slashed because of the economic recession. And later on, it was reintroduced in 2023, but by that time, the crude oil prices had increased, and the overall the price for a low-income household became so expensive that many have started going back to the biomass-based fuel. So the gains we have had in the past years is being undone. One way to address this is through targeting, better targeting of the subsidies. We have done studies on targeting. There are the scheme itself by the government of India has several targeting measures. But our studies shows that despite these targeting measures, a lot of these benefits go into the richest families rather than the poorest ones. Our study also tried to assess if we can improve the targeting by using other metrics, other economic indicators, but we found that there is no significant improvement. So to summarize, relying on exclusively on targeting for LPG promotion is creating risks for making clean energy affordable for rural women in cooking needed. So what is the future? What we have seen is that induction and biogas-based cooking are figuring in some of the sustainable pathways till 2050, but there has been no major support policies and research into these technologies in India and Indonesia. And these economies should look into these policies to unlock non-fossil cooking technologies. We are again working with IDRC. IDRC is funding a project where we look into this aspect. We address three key things. What are the risks in reliance of on fossil cooking to achieve energy access? Also the main barriers in the uptake of non-fossil cooking technologies. Yeah, I'll stop this presentation now. I also want to just these are the links to the the studies I have quoted. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A new context, I think it's very important to mention. And in that regard, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Ahmed Sukri, gender specialist at the Ministry of Climate Change and Technology from the Republic of Maldives, to discuss what are they doing to engage and empower women to enable the transition towards clean and cost-effective renewable energy in seeds. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, especially those male participants who came to support this course. Let me take you to from the international and multilateral experiences to a very small island state, to a very factual and ground level experiences. I'm going to give you through this exploration some of the experiences that we have during some of the ADB funded projects that we have. And you will see when we go through what we have been doing. First, let me go through some of the overview of the country. We are talking about not one island, 187 inhabited islands that we are targeting actually to replace those energy systems to a solar diesel battery hybrid systems. And at the same time, we have 159 resorts currently in operation, which has separate powerhouses. And the population is very small. The last census, according to the last census, we have 500,000 people. Out of these, 132,000 people are foreigners. And the land area you can see from the slide, not very big, but when we go for this kind of struggle, it is really big. The interventions, when we talk about the interventions, the two projects we have, ADB funded two projects. One is POIST project, which is targeting for 160 islands, out islands. And then we also have another project, ASHA project. Mainly, we are trying to, through these two projects, we are trying to replace the diesel generated powerhouse systems to solar diesel battery hybrid systems. And while we do this, we are also trying to focus, engage women, and also including the socio-economic aspects of the women. And this is the ASHA project, which is targeting 20 out islands. In this project, we also have, in these two projects, we also have different pilot programs. One is, some of these programs are to empower communities, include communities in the energy sector, improve the socio-economic aspects of the island communities, also focusing on women. So we have programs to outreach, give education, increase the awareness, and also the change to some of the policy changes. And mainly, it is targeting to have a mindset change. From through this, we have actually so far attended 111 islands, and through this, while we are doing this replacement of the power systems, we are also trying to train people and also increase the capacity of the women in different aspects. And for during this period, we have created employment and also increased the training as well. To outreach, as outreach programs, we have had career guidance sessions for school kids from grades 8 to 12. And the career guidance is targeting to increase awareness and amongst the parents and also teachers, as well as the school kids, that telling them that they can go for higher education in this sector. And it mainly, when we started, we found that the parents are not very much aware of the potential energy sector is a potential area where their kids can be engaged and also educated in the country as well as abroad. And now they are very much aware, and seems that once those school kids, when they are graduated, they will be, some of them will be taking these options. And also we try to, these are the numbers that during our awareness programs conducted in 111 islands that we have engaged men and women, around 12,000. And amongst the this number, 50% is women. And also we engaged women development committees, which are actually part of the island councils. We try to create the capacity, increase the capacity, and also increase the awareness. And then in order to increase the empower the household level socioeconomic aspects, because at the household level, women are mainly engaged at the house, and then government has initiated the lead bulb distribution program, and through that they have distributed this much of the bulbs, around 3 million. And then one of the project has initiated when established, installed first solar powered community ice plant in one of the island, which is Difuri. And now the ADB funded project is trying to replicate the same community ice plant in other 4 islands. And we see that when we started consultation with the these communities, we found that many other island communities are demanding for the same thing, and they are going to be operated by the women WDCs. And these are the 4 islands where we will have these 4 ice plants. And then we also have in the upcoming project, which is the Ashwa project, they will be, it is a farming island, and they are very popular farming island within the Maldives. They have been doing the farming for a long period, and because of that, we found that they have problems of saline in the water, freshwater lens, and the farmers are having issues of irrigation. So the project is going to provide them desalination RO plant to help them to have a proper irrigation system. And this RO plant will be powered by solar system. And this irrigation system will come with some of the greenhouses and also with the shade houses, so that these greenhouses and also the shade houses can be operated, managed by the women development committees. So these are some of the ground level experiences that we wanted to share with you. And most welcome to the Maldives.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for bringing up a very important point on education, not only on training, but on educating parents on the potential of their daughters in the energy transition. I would like now to welcome Grace Gavis, Senior Science Research Specialist at the Department of Energy in Philippines, to let us know what is this host country doing to move and put women in the front line of the driving the clean energy transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia, for that introduction. Mabuhay and good afternoon to all. Welcome to the Philippines. In 2021, I was accepted as a mentee of a US-supported mentorship program called the Female Leaders in Energy. And as a culminating activity to that program, we need to develop a capstone project that touches on aspects that are related to gender in the energy subsectors that we are working for. And at the time, I was part of the Renewable Energy Bureau of the DOE and was actively involved in discussions on energy transition. So bridging these two together, I developed a full report, a research that identifies the critical roles that women will play in a clean energy transition. But for the ASAP, I'll be focusing on the key policies and programs that we are doing to move more women at the front line of this clean energy transition as we should. Sorry. Okay. As embodied in our energy plans and programs, the Philippines has a very ambitious target of achieving at least 35% of the RE share in a power generation mix by 2030 and 50% by 2040. And this entails a massive amount of investments and also expanding our RE supply base by more than 7 times and increasing our employment or workforce just for the RE sector by more than 5 times. And that is a lot, right? But beyond hitting these numbers, ensuring women will have equal opportunities and profound roles must be a critical measure of success. Why? Because in the Philippines, we comprise half of the Philippines' total population and 40% of the labor force, making our voices, roles, and perspectives indispensable in matters of national significance, such as this clean energy transition. Yet, we remain underrepresented in this critical sector, as I will show in the succeeding slides. But before moving through with the statistics, I would first to introduce the Philippines' stance on gender equality. In fact, we are one of the most progressive globally in terms of this aspect, ranking 19th among 146 countries, and we have remained the top performing in Asia according to various reports. And this can be attributed with the promulgation of various laws and policies in the country, beginning way back 1970s. Of course, I won't discuss everything in detail, but the most notable of which is our Magna Carta of Women of 2009, which is a comprehensive women's rights law that spells out every Filipino's rights to non-discriminatory access to education, employment, and family relations. And this law also mandated the annual allocation of at least 5% of government institutions, which include my department, Department of Energy, for gender and development programs, beginning 2012. Despite these, a significant gap in women's representation in energy and renewable energy has remained. In fact, in the Philippines, based on public records, women only comprise 16% of the total energy workforce. And this is one of the lowest as compared to other economic subsectors in the Philippines. And we further benchmark it to the global statistics. This is much lower because according to the IEA, it's around 22%. And when we look into women holding senior positions, it's much higher. For major RE companies in the Philippines, women holding board positions comprise 26%. And this may be higher than the global average of 11%, but this is still low because that only accounts to 1 female and 4 males in the senior management position. And we must increase it as we move to the clean energy transition. Now, so leveraging research and interviews of 13 empowered women with different involvements in the renewable energy industry, different challenges and recommendation to expanding women's representation in the RE sector has emerged, which is available in the full report. For the interest of time, I won't discuss everything in detail. But these are their actual responses, the challenges and the recommendations to increase women's representation in renewable energy, which is summarized in this slide. So the previous session touched on these challenges, but I would like to focus on some points. First, the major challenge, according also to the interviews that I did, is of course limited industry knowledge and representation, which emanates from the first entry point, which is school. It is where we need the pipeline of more women. So recommendations to address this is, of course, revolving recommendation is to integrate more energy topics in courses and school curriculums, not just beginning in college, but also beginning in primary and secondary schools. And also visibility of career opportunities in renewables by engaging more renewable energy companies to participate in university job fairs and career talks where most students have access to, since they are not yet part of the workforce. And then the second, when women enter the workforce, another challenge that they face is gender bias and stereotypes. And even though the Philippines is one of the most advanced in this aspect, according to the interviewees, they still experience these at some point in their lives or in their careers. So the recommendation is to really have minimum gender policies and practices in the workplace, such as having mandatory gender sensitivity programs, and also assigning a specific unit to handle gender-related concerns. And of course, having female energy networks and associations. And another specific challenge to women is, of course, household and family responsibilities, which can be addressed by having more flexible work arrangement, not just for women, but also for men, so that both can equally share household responsibilities. And the last is gender policy gaps. Even though the Philippines is one of the most advanced, again, there are still lapses because there's no specific mention of any gender keyword or aspect in any of our energy plan or renewable energy program since the past years. And the sex disaggregated database has remained scarce over the years. So pushing all these together is highly recommended so that we move to a clean energy transition that is both just and inclusive. But I believe our energy and RE industry recognize these challenges and recommendations. So we have been very active on doing a lot of programs for the sector. So for the government, we have the gender toolkit for the energy sector, which was published way back in 2016. So this serves as a reference document for industry players into building more gender inclusive companies in organizations. And apparently, this was championed by the first and only female energy secretary to date of the DOE, my former boss, Secretary Monsada. And then this one, the Girls in Science program is my personal favorite because this provides science workshops and energy laboratory tours specifically to female high school students. So this began in 2011 and this is an ongoing program. However, in the case of the Philippines, closing the gender gap lies mainly in the hands of the private sector because they employ 90% of the total workforce in renewable energy. And it is promising to know that more RE companies are becoming more committed to increase women's representation and empower women in their workplace. So these are the major private RE companies rather, that are implementing various measures to increase representation of women in their companies by explicitly hiring more women in both early and senior level positions, and also integrating gender in development in their corporate strategies, and also their participation in different local international coalitions empowering women. And this is my last slide. Also, the global community is our key partner towards energy sector diversity. This is the program which I became a mentee of, called the Female Leaders in Energy. It provided us with knowledge platforms, networking, which personally, on my experience, built my confidence and really expanded my network, not just in the Philippines, but also in the global energy practitioners. This ends the end of my presentation. This is the full report, which I give everyone public access to. Thank you very much.
Salamat, Grace. And thank you not only for your sharing your personal experience, but also for bringing up the figures that are higher in leadership position in Philippines, like compared to the global scene and to many, many countries. Which brings me to the last of our speakers, speaking about leadership. Usha Maski Manandkar, Advisor Policy and GESI Integration at Minergy Nepal, who will tell us about her work with elected women leaders for powering inclusive municipal energy plan and policies in Nepal. Thank you, Usha.
Thank you, Thelia. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of all the women leaders in Nepal, representing in the municipality corporation. So good afternoon again. I'm representing Minergy in Nepal, providing services nationally and internationally in energy efficiency, renewable energy, and waste sector. We actively engage with primary stakeholders such as private sector, government, communities, especially the marginalized groups, for effectiveness and sustainability of our interventions. So let me take you through a story of an emerging elected female representative of local government in Nepal, with whom we worked intensively in project for 2 years. Okay, the story is, I was the unheard voice with apprehension and low esteem. This experience of a female member of Energy Development Subcommittee, often nominated under the quota in one of the municipalities, echoes with most of the 14,000 elected women representatives of 753 local governments in Nepal. Today, I'm going to share their voices in front of these influential audience who can make a difference in the lives of emerging women leaders across the globe. So let's begin. This is Wim. Sorry, what happened? Okay, this is Bhim Kumari Tamang. As a homemaker and a people's representative, she needs to fulfill her official responsibilities along with other household chores, caregiving, and farm works. She is a member of Energy Development Subcommittee, which has mandates to develop, implement, and monitor 5-year municipal energy plan and following the government's 9-step guideline. She is Bhim Kumari. But energy-related decisions are often made by male-dominated committees and generally fall short of gender considerations. Their voices are yet to be acknowledged. But why? Why their voices are not heard? Among others, the limiting belief that we carry with us as the truth is the most stumbling blocks. The deep-rooted fear, hopelessness, helplessness, and worthlessness did not allow her to put her opinions, how to speak. Do I make sense? Men are more knowledgeable. These doubts haunt her mind while contributing in making decisions. She could not speak up. Atop the signage is always there. Self-doubt about her own capability to complete the tasks that came naturally. The fights that her hearts take to, but all internally. She felt disheartening, feeling that no one listened to. No one listened what she had to say. Yes, women's voice is not heard. But she felt bad. She expressed once to us, it would have been a different scenario if it was a man instead of me. Women are humiliated in this society. All my initiative would have been successful if I were a man. I have a feeling that they did not listen because of me being a woman. We are not heard. It hurts. It's very saddening. But the limit is within us, the self-doubt, inhibitions, our own thoughts that will never let us bring forward. That's the voice of Bhim Kumari. So to change this, we coupled agency-based with resource-based intervention in our Empower approach to enhance the capabilities. The approach uses personal agency building exercises and facilitates bottom-up thinking to reframe energy service discussions. Training and mentoring packages were delivered along with 9-step planning process in a piloting with the female members in one of the rural municipalities in Nepal. The experiential learning techniques that we used resulted in self-awareness and self-realization for gaining confidence to exert personal agency and living the lives they want. And of course, achieving valued ways of being and doing. So I want to go through with you also what is agency. Let's experience. I would like to I would request you all to think of the people you love in your life. I give you a few minutes, few seconds. Just think of a person or people you love in your life. And you can think of the relationship with that people, with that persons in your life. May I know how many of you have the name yourself in the list? Are you in the list? Can I know? Anyone? Please raise your hand if you are in the list. Yes, that's the starting point. And these are some of the techniques that we use in the workshops and training. Actually, our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are interconnected and influence one's action. If I'm not loving myself, that means I do not think about myself. Then I will not be aware about my beliefs, my biases, and their roots, often fueled by social norms. Then I tend to accept it as a truth rather than as a belief, and bias is cultivated in me. This has influence in how I feel about myself. Then I will act as per my feelings, which may reinforce the cultivated belief. That's what we do in Empower approach. In our approach, we have the training to influence this cycle while uncovering the limiting belief and unconscious biases through various learning tools and techniques. One of the techniques we just experienced a few seconds back. So that's what we did. And we integrated that in the planning process. The members were trained, coached, and mentored during their engagement in the government's 9-step planning process. This is the 9-step planning process. And we integrated that particularly before the point of key decision-making stages. So we added to the steps. With that intervention in the guideline, we added these steps and worked with the local elected members, and we experienced the encouraging results actually. Along with Bhim Kumari, other EDSC members, the members got the confidence to prioritize cook stoves for marginalized households over the solar PV installation in the office. So they could negotiate and be empowered by themselves to demand for this. Their decision to prioritize cook stove is the result of use of their gender-specific experiential knowledge and empathy towards women suffering from the hardship in the kitchen. And definitely the voices to influence energy plans and policies. When their priority get implemented, the feeling was truly gratifying for her. She could understand and realize now that the limiting belief that I cannot do is a major reason that women are still falling behind. We need to come out of the deep-rooted fear, uproot them. This is what she, along with other EDSC members, learned during the process that we implemented. That's Bhim Kumari again.
महिलाहरू त बोल्न सक्ने भएछन् है भने हाँसो गर्नुहुन्छ कि यतिसम्म चाहिँ बनाउनु भएछ भनेर हान्नुहुन्छ अध्यक्षज्यूहरू गरे रहेछ विनरजीले तालिम दिएर बोल्न सक्ने भन्नुहुन्छ छैन भनेर कस्तो तनाव भयो पछि त अनि लुर्क गरिदिनु भयो नि त गरे रहेछ भन्नुहुन्थ्यो यस्तो टाउको हाल्लाउनु हुन्थ्यो कि नत्र कहाँ नि बजेट नभएको बेला भनेर गराएर भन्नुहुन्थ्यो.
That's another Bhim Kumari after we worked with her. So we have integrated this approach in other sectors as well. It's not only energy. We have done that for other sectors as WASH in the water sector as well. And now we are generating scientific evidence of this effectiveness of its approach. We also practice this in our trust circle, where the Empower team learn about ourselves and gain empathy with participants. by asking our team member to undertake the same agency-based training that we offer. So we just don't deliver, we also are participants of the training. We often find that we have similar struggles, we have similar self-doubts, self-questioning, and time limitations as these emerging women leaders. So please join hand for lasting impact, and I hope you all will consider coupling personal building and resource-based empowerment in your personal life and your work. Thank you, and please join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Usha, for that powerful presentation and for let us experience on our own the experience and to realize and to highlight the self-perception that women sometimes limited ourselves because of that. Please, I would like to welcome the panel. I think we did a decent time in keeping the presentation, so there's plenty time for questions. If anybody in the audience would like to address a question, you can see there's a microphone in the middle. So I welcome you all to take your chance. Otherwise, I have a lot of questions that I would like to ask to you all. But first, let me have that chance. Anybody would like to make a question? Okay, then let me start. I think it was very telling. And Usha, again, thank you for your powerful presentation. You mentioned there's other sectors that you have also been implementing this. Can we know a little bit more about that? Can you give us some examples of these sectors and if the outcomes have been different compared to the energy ones?
Yes, we have implemented this approach also in the wash sector, particularly in the sanitation and with the entrepreneurs, not only with local leaders, but also the women entrepreneurs where they have a lot of limiting belief about being entrepreneur, not only by being in the leadership, but also as the entrepreneur. So we have tested this approach for various audiences, and I'm one of them actually, where I went through this training and coaching.
Very nice. So you were a mentee and now a mentor.
Yes.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
We have been, I think, highlighting how important is mentorship. And Grace, you mentioned you have been also a mentee on your own. Would you like to expand a little bit more on your experience?
Hello. I was a mentee. It's a 2-year program supported by U.S. Energy Association and U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Energy Resources, specifically for young women who are at the early to mid-level stage of their careers, for women working in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, Philippines included. So we're 32 in total, and it is just capped off last month in Thailand. So they provided us with technical and leadership workshops. So for the technical workshops, they touched on the different critical aspects of energy, not just in power or renewables, but also interconnection and trading. But the most favorite part of mine is really the leadership workshop. So they provided us with a professional leadership coach and consultant provided by the US government, where we discussed several topics such as leadership skills, communication, negotiation, self-advocacy, how to handle gender discrimination in the workplace. And also included in the workshops is also a panel of women leaders in energy across our countries, where us mentees could ask directly to them on specific topics. And personally, I also have a one-to-one mentor who is also a senior management women leader in the US. So that's the design of the program, which I hope could be replicated more across different countries, and not just countries, but even in within companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Very interesting. Again, mentorship has also been highlighted by Bayan in her presentation, but that was only one of the many initiatives that she was mentioning. From your project experience, Bayan, would you mind explaining a little bit more on the observations, the recommendations to increase women in the renewable energy sector?
Thank you for the question. From my observations across our activities, we implement under USAID Power Central Asia project. I think what I notice in countries, in Central Asia countries, that there is a need to work on the lower level of the utilities. We need to start with utilities, and to get more information, more details about the problems they experience in women at the even at the remote areas and the utility energy companies. And also one of another of my observation is in some cases there is more kind of declarative approach. Even the government level, they have some, for example, in some countries there is even a requirement by the law. A law requires like 30% of women in the management level. But however, in practice, it's not implemented at good. It's not implemented in a good level, and we need to. I think it's good to have a policy level, but also the enforcement of that policy. It is important. So my thinking is that it should be a kind of combination of approaches. From one thing, you need to strictly like request the companies, the utilities to follow the established policies. On the other hand, the government itself and the companies should provide some like incentives and motivations for women empowerment in the utilities. So the key message is that we need to work at the not only level at the ministries, at the government, but also at the utility level. And then because at the utility level, you get more insights how to better involve women in power sector in the energy companies.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I think it's something that we all agree if we are here that we need to involve women at all levels. And I would like to now ask you, Anas, I think you mentioned in your presentation the importance of ensuring and supporting women to own their solar irrigation assets. Can you explain a little bit more? Can you expand? Is it enough that they have access to it? Maybe the male on the household will have it, or do you think it's more important the ownership of its of the device, of the technology for women? What's your view?
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's an important point. I think the primary priority should definitely go into access to make sure that the women who doesn't have currently access to irrigation get access, whether it is owned by them or someone else in the household. Definitely that benefit will be distributed among the household. But at the same time, what we see from other research studies on irrigation is that when a woman owns the irrigation asset, the kind of cropping pattern, the decisions completely changes. It has an impact on how the household itself view irrigation as a livelihood. The cropping pattern, the timing of the irrigation, etc., and the additional energy needs, etc., are heavily influenced by whether the woman owns or not. So it is definitely an end to which we would try. But the most fortunate thing is that whatever I have mentioned as an inclusivity measure addresses both of these concerns, and we should definitely try to integrate both of it so that we ensure that women have more access. At the same time, we break out of the structural barriers of women not owning the rights for different agriculture assets.
That's an interesting point. Actually, there's a lot of restricting laws across the world in terms of women or having ownership and access to financial support. In this sense, Usha also mentioned, and that's an exercise that we have all experienced, the self-perception. In your experience, do women have the self-perception that they can own and they should own this technology? Or it normally requires a little bit more of
I think giving access to resources, that's the starting point. And to exercise that access, that's the second part, like to access and gain control of that asset. That's where women have to be supported to first to gain access and then to utilize that access. And women often actually have that limiting belief. I would say like everyone has it, but like the socially marginalized population has more of that because of upbringing, because of societal norms that's embedded like deep unconscious. And we have to break that one, not only for access to assets, for all the aspects where they have to come out of that deep deprivation to own something that for themselves.
Thank you very much. I think, again, this resonates with what Ahmed was mentioning in his presentation about the awareness and education. In some cases, self-awareness, and in some cases, parental awareness. Ahmed, can you tell us a little bit more about that? What has been the process? What has been the experience about mentioning the parents, like what is the potential of the daughters? How are they taking it? How are you little by little challenging the cultural and social norms?
Yeah, interesting question. When we go to the context of the Maldives, all households are connected to electricity. There is no household without connection. And all 187 inhabited islands, we have separate unit of powerhouses. So all services are provided to these islands with separate units of the services, which is the difficult thing, but it's achieved. So when we started working on this, though we have the universal access to the electricity, but in all these powerhouses, mainly male are engaged. Then we started the career guidance and sensitization programs for the women communities of these island communities, and also the school kids. We found that this is even because they have regular career guidance sessions in schools, but energy sector is not touched sector. They are neglected and they don't talk about it. When we started the awareness programs, RE promotion, energy sector promotion, and also the career guidance, they were really surprised. Even when we started talking about the pay and the salaries and the opportunities that they have in country and abroad for the higher education, tertiary education, they were really shocked. Many of these parents were shocked. And also we found that some of these kids, they were saying that, oh, we often have career guidance sessions, but nobody talk about energy sector. It is a sector where they can build their career. And from there, we found that this starts empowering women, especially the youngsters. They have kind of interest to be engaged in the energy sector. And now we have found that in all these powerhouses, at least we have more than 2 women employed. And though they are engaged mainly in front office, some of them, there are technicians, but these front office staff, they have started by their own interest when we started sensitization programs to these powerhouse staff. They have started taking into the technical side. Now they go to the households to take the readings. They generate the bills, and likewise we see that it is coming to the women folks. So we found that the government policy has changed to have a kind of inclusive approach where we don't just try to demonstrate them with different kind of facilities, but education is important, sensitization is important. While we do this, we also try to facilitate some of the materials to demonstrate by themselves, okay, this is an area where they can be engaged to improve their socioeconomic activities. Now we have found that they have started the household generated businesses. So that's
very interesting. And as Anas was mentioning in his presentation, it's a business model. It's not just that it's just unfair. It brings economic impact. Orestes, just to finalize, before I give again the chance to the audience to speak, you have been mentioning some examples, also including transport sector, that I think in the other presentations was not as focused. What would you say that is the most significant challenges facing women in this context, or in general in the energy and climate focus initiatives?
Thanks for the question. I think it varies. I think it's case by case. There are maybe just generally it's worth saying that I think what's important in this in considering Jesse and considering gender equality and equity, it's to start asking the questions, to start actually paying attention and listening and engaging women as stakeholders. Having that as a step, as a part of the process, reveals lots of different unexpected areas of need and attention that otherwise wouldn't be addressed, and that enriches the process of making something more sustainable, more effective, more impactful, and there's quite a range of challenges that women face in particular. There's time poverty, there's lack of access to resources, there's lack of economic opportunity, lack of decision-making process. And in energy and transport and examples like that, it's specifically, it's really specifically there. I think it depends on the situation, but it's challenges in having an opportunity to be part of the sector, to be employees in the sector, to have the right training and skills and ability to engage. There's no lack of capability. It's just a matter of opportunity often. There's as beneficiaries, there's often a gap as well, where women don't have the right access to use these services, just as oftentimes women lack access to services in general that seem to be something that men have an advantage in, access to basic services. Not having a gender lens when developing, when providing these services often means that they just don't have that access. And so having that step where you consider the different perspectives, the different needs, and listening and engaging those stakeholders creates better opportunities for filling those gaps. So hope that's a helpful answer.
It is, and I think it's the perfect wrap up. And it also mirrors a little bit what in the previous discussion was being mentioned about the need of having women in leadership positions to bring those questions, to reflect on what do they need, because they will know compared to what a man would know or could not know in the same position. I welcome again the audience. If anybody wants to post a question to our, not only the largest, the most diverse and the most balanced panel so far today. Anybody would like to have a question? That's great. Then I'm very proud and impressed with ourselves for keeping up the time. I would like to wrap this session up and again, welcome me everybody to thank the panel for their insights. And I was requested to say that please everybody remember there's a 6 p.m. reception at the cafeteria. So please everybody join. We can keep the discussion over there. And of course, we will be here for a few more minutes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.